Jean van Leeuwen, Chair of the SADA Scientific Advisory Committee, and we'd like to invite you to the SADA National Conference to be held in Cape Town from the 25th to the 27th of August. Streamlined over 3 full days, this year's program features more podium speakers, more lecture time, and more trader interaction. See you in Cape Town this August. Hi, I'm Dr. Jean van Leeuwen, Chair of the SADA Scientific Advisory Committee. We'd like to invite you to the SADA National Conference to be held in Cape Town from the 25th to the 27th of August. Streamlined over 3 full days, this year's program features more podium speakers, more lecture time, and more trader interaction. See you in Cape Town this August. Hi, I'm Dr. Jean van Leeuwen, Chair of the SADA Scientific Advisory Committee. We'd like to invite you to the SADA National Conference to be held in Cape Town from the 25th to the 27th of August. Streamlined over 3 full days, this year's program features more podium speakers, more lecture time, and more trader interaction. See you in Cape Town this August.
Sorry, did we lose Dr. Buleni? I'm not sure, Dr. Kearney, but I think we lost Dr. Buleni, who's chairing the meeting.
She's back. There she is. Yeah. Dr. Buleni, everything okay on your side?
It keeps, the network keeps on kicking me off. It comes off and then it recalibrates and then it comes back. Has the video played? Because it just brought me back now.
Yes, it did.
Okay. So I can do the introduction now.
Yes, you may start.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Greetings, colleagues. Today we're having a panel discussion, and we have 3 members of our young dentist panel and also the seniors. Welcome, everyone. I'll start with the CV of Dr. Robin Kearney. Robin Kearney started from the University of Pretoria. She values teamwork. She passed with distinction. She enjoys the Cape Argus cycle tour 3 times, and she's done it with her father. That's nice. She recently completed her community service, and she's interested in Botox and dermal fillers and conscious sedation. She has much emphasis that will always be further education and development and in cosmetic and more specialized dentistry. And then we have Dr. Q. She's currently doing her community service. She's a young dentist council member. She's also featured in the career magazine named Zanzi Career with Kanya. She has interests that revolve around restorations of smiles and oral health, therefore enhancing one's beauty. She's more interested in general dentist and beautician, and community service is at heart for her. but in her spare time, she enjoys Pastor Robert, SADA Jakes Roberts. And then we have Dr. Eric. Dr. Eric did her diploma, the bachelor's degree, and graduated top of the class. We have geniuses here, absolutely amazing. She has passion for mentoring and research. She has published his work in the SA Dental Journal in his final year of BDS, and he's keen on oral medicine, human anatomy, physiology, pathology, general and oral surgery. Really an academic at heart. He's an adept communicator. We're about to hear that. Amazing. He has a diploma and trained for basic life support and advanced cardiovascular life support, which makes sense why she is doing oral medicine. Yeah, thank you. And then now he's pursuing his master's degrees in maxillofacial surgery. And then with our seniors, we have Dr. Henrik Binar. We all know him for the endodontics that he's quite passionate about, who he completed in 2002. He was awarded the FX Prince Award, Best Student as well. Like I said, we have geniuses here, so feel free to ask those questions. You are in good hands. He did his ComServe in 2003. He served as SADA board Free State branch in 2004 to 2008. He received his training in the Dentsply Melifa factory in Switzerland in 2012. He has co-authored numerous articles with Prof. Van der Vijver in orthodontics. He's attending workshops at the Dentsply Surround factory in Germany. He's well-traveled as well. He's relocated his practice from 2019 to join the team Greg in Nasia and Tim Dental in Gibb and Plettenberg. He has special interest in endodontics, and we all know that with his excellent work. And then we have Dr. Cornell Smith, qualified in 2005, University of Pretoria, has done a lot of, she's done postgraduate diploma in aesthetic dentistry and orthodontist. She's in the forefront of learning and learning new tricks and techniques in dentistry. She's a founding member of, co-founding member of Smith and Van Leeuwen for 7 years now. She's also recognized as a leader and prominent educator with the World Aesthetic, lecturing internationally, a co-founder of the Bridge program that aims to support the development of newly qualified dentists. She's serving as the current president of the South African Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Erasmus, who qualified in 1986. Some of us were not born by then, the young dentist, but we appreciate that we have him here. He has his current practice, which he started in 1988, where he employs three dentists and oral hygienists, 3 dental assistants, and 4 staff members. He has been a vice president of SADA Pretoria branch, a national councillor representing the Pretoria branch, a chairman of marketing, national treasurer. He once represented SADA at the FDI World Congress. He's been in African Regional Organization vice president. He's been a speaker in Mexico. He's a director and vice chairman he has been a director and vice chairman of SADA board. He's been a chairman of the Guidelines and Coding Committee. So if you have any issues with coding and ICD-10 codes, he's the right person to speak to. He's been a member of SADA Financial Review Committee as well. If you have any issues with that, he's a good person to speak to. He has interest in exploring advancing in financial and payment technologies, which could be integrated into private practice management. Welcome, colleagues. This is a mouthful. Hope we are all ready to receive all the wise words and the counsel from all our esteemed colleagues and guests. I will then allow the young dentists to share their questions, because they've got questions that they've prepared for us, and then the senior dentists are ready to answer your questions. Over to you guys.
Dr.
All
Key,
right.
you're up first.
Yes, good evening, doctors. I hope you guys have had a good day. So my first question to you guys is, what was your experience or any insight regarding running a dental practice that you didn't typically find, whilst you were in dental school? What type of information did you gain? How did you obtain it, and so on? This can be aimed at any doctor, Dr. Erasmus, Dr. Smith, or Dr. Pinar.
I'll break the ice here. So I think your question, firstly, can I just say, the fact that that we are the older dentists and you are the younger ones, I don't really know how I feel about that.
It's happening, Doc.
In our hearts, we are all so young. But I really see it as a privilege to share with you guys tonight. So thank you so much for inviting me. It's very nice to also just touch base with the Young Dental Council, and you guys are doing some amazing work. So thank you for that. Then if I can maybe just give a broad overview answer on your question, because it's quite a big question if you think about it. Like, what are the things that I didn't learn in university that I'm doing in my business as a business owner? There's so many. I'm thinking specifically, Varisha Rupa did a study, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, on the knowledge that we gain at dental school on practice management. And what she found in that study, and this was published in SADA, was that over 2/3 of the dental students don't get any knowledge on business. So I would go as far as saying that everything we do in private practice is stuff that you have never heard of in dental school. And that might be a big statement to make, but I really think that that is true.
Very much so, Doc.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
Well, I still struggle to read my own balance statements or income statements. I mean, you've never been taught accounting subjects. I'm just glad if I hear I don't have to pay in any tax. That's the only thing I worry about, or and then you go on. So, I mean, you've never been taught, just the basics of accounting, for instance. I'm a one-man practice, and I think if you are CC, it can become even more complicated. But I think we, in our minds, had the medical sort of background pushing us instead of thinking about it as a business, as Kearney said. That's what you run at the end. It's not a practice. You run a business, which is called a dental practice. And one silly example is this year with rand-dollar exchange rates, with everything. I mean, in February, some of the companies just send out an email, sorry, we are increasing all our stock by 9%. It's your baseline composites, your CEREC blocks, whatever. And the same happened in April. So it's 2 times in a region of 6 months that they went up basically 18% just on your basic consumables. And where do you factor that in? So you have to start thinking about little things. And I mean, this is, like when I say, such a broad strategic questions, but that's one example that you have to keep track somehow with a booklet of what you order, that you know what your actual inset cost is. I mean, surely if Pick n Pay is selling milk January, they're not selling it for the same price December. And that's where it becomes very difficult if you work on a fixed fee structure, that you're not fluctual and can adjust certain things. I mean, you can't just go and put up 20%, but somehow put a 10 rand on your consultation fee and what to run it as a business. Otherwise, by the end of the year, and that's in my first 5 years when I was working, purely on medical aid tariffs, it's become daunting. You feel at the end of the year working harder and harder, and you're earning less. You come out of community service, you relax in a sense. You don't have to worry because you're getting a salary. But when you have to start paying the bills and everything is counted, you're the last guy getting paid. So yeah, I think that's things that we haven't been taught. And in the same sense, a silly thing is, I wish they've trained us a little bit on equipment, or a little bit on just maintenance of your own equipment of a business side. Some is in rural areas, or I was in Welkom. There was no if you needed someone from Milner's or what, maybe 2 days or 3 days, so you can't work for 3 days in a silly little air bubble or a water pipe that in your unit goes, and it's such easy things to really learn how to just quickly fix or get by, and that's things that I think one should learn or watch the technicians do it. So many things, I've seen a problem happening and watch what they do so that next time you can do it. Or you get a block on your suction unit, and you get a plumber out, they don't know how to fix it. So that's maybe something I wish they would have done, which you learn the hard way, but you believe me, you quickly, if you sitting out there, you learn how to open stuff, you have hands to work with and fix it yourself. So yeah. But
Wow.
in the end, it's a business that you run. That's for sure. It's not a practice. So you should from day one start thinking, and there's marketing. There's lots of things which other can touch on, but it's in the end, it's a business.
Yes, I can also come in here if you want me to. I think I think I'm the older one yet, if I gathered it correctly. Yes, I think the one big thing you need to know, and Kearney is very right about the things that you said. It's such a wide subject to talk about, but you need to know and understand that you only got 2 hands, and that's one thing from a business perspective that you need to try and explore, to delegate things to people in your practice, like the staff, and even employing other people as well. Now, just for instance, I started actually immediately with 4 practices. I bought 4 practices, and it was a bit wild those days, and the interest rate was very high. So I was very much aware of the business aspect of it. I think it's important that you explore the situation where you're going to go into in a practice, and which area, the demographics. Who are your target market in the area that you're going into? That's very important. Look at it as a business, because it's much more complicated to run a dental practice as a business, because there's no tangible product that you are selling. It's a service. You're selling a service, and that's much tougher. It's much more demanding, and for people to understand, because they can't really see it. They walk out, they don't know what you've done. Okay, these days there are way more stuff like apps. I think Kearney is very much clued up with those things, much more than me. But the thing is, if you do it correctly from the word go, and like I said, he mentioned a thing about broken equipment. I, for instance, actually in my practice that I run at the moment, I've got 1 extra compressor, 1 extra suction pump, 1 extra curing light, and those things may cost you 60,000, 70,000 standing there. But if you close down for a week because of one of those pieces of equipment, you lose much more money than that. So that's just something that you can do and keep it at hand. So it is a big issue. But the other thing is, take part in the society or the people that you are dealing with on a daily basis. In my case, it was the university. I was nearly on the campus. I'm in a business mall. So my market is way more different than a practice within a suburban area where you've got mothers and children. So my target market is differently. So my whole approach to that is different. I put out different advertisements towards the students. I take part in the university's wellness days, where I do lucky draws, for instance. If you win the lucky draw, you get a free cleaning or a free bleaching. I've got specials for the students. If you bring 3 other students, you get your bleaching for free. So it's a business, run it like a business. And that's just a way in your area. Identify that in your area. Now you can explore that. Thank you.
All right, that was a lot, doctors. Thank you so much. So my second question would be to you guys. I know that you guys have been working for years. You guys have been working with different specialists and, dental lab technicians. In your opinion or your experience, how have you achieved an effective way to communicate and collaborate with them effectively to basically obtain the best patient outcome? What are the details, the nitty-gritties that you need to do when liaising with your dental lab technician, your dental assistant, in order to just create everything in harmony? Any doctor can go first.
Well, I think we're all person-based. So I think the first logical step is to actually go and visit your dental technician. That it's not someone that's far away. Even if it's 2 hours away, make the effort, go one Friday, go and visit him. And I think that sets the platform for a working relationship. And also ask, what can I do better? If you send him a crown prep, say, listen, what did you not like? Be criticized, because that's the only way. Be objective. Say, listen, I want to learn, I want to be better. So he's part of your team. That's one thing that you must realize from day one, is that your dental technician is a very important part of your business as a team member. So then you ask him, what can I do better? Should I use a different? Do you need a wax for a bite? Do you prefer a putty? Ask him what he likes and what works for him. And I think that makes quite a difference. If you see how they workflow, if they do a denture setup, what is the process? Just go and look at the processes, because that helps you to be better. And then the simple things you ask, what can help communicating, a photo, cell phone with a photo, that's a start, not all the advanced, I know you can't go out there, get a practice and you have all the CAD cams and all the scanners, but a simple photo, everyone can take a photo of your cell phone with a camera and you WhatsApp it. I've done cases where you sit quickly with a patient and you do a denture setup, then I video call him and say, listen, can you see this? When he smiles, this lip line, and we sit and tell the patient, because he's part of the team, he feels much more part of the team and not just working on a GIPS model. So yeah, I think that's, for me, basic stuff. It's, don't just see him as someone sitting there in a lab. Go and meet him and make him part of your team. I think that's important.
Yes. Does anyone else want to add, Dr. Erasmus, Dr. Smith?
No, I think I can just I can maybe just agree with what Heinrich is saying. I think he's basically covered everything. It just makes me think of something that my business partner Jean, who you all know, he always says, make your lab your best friend. Phone the lab on a Monday morning. I've been fortunate enough to work with Shane Hansen from DiceRAM since 2008, and it really does something to that relationship if you just ask him how his weekend was. When we send a WhatsApp to query a case, maybe also just ask how they're doing. So just bring in a bit of a human element. But then more from a clinical point of view, what you are saying is that, how do we give our patients that excellent care? I think if we just take that relationship a little bit further and make sure that there is communication between the lab, and not just between the lab, but also between the different specialities. And like Heinrich said, use a WhatsApp group. So create a little WhatsApp group, and we often do that where we have our patient's name and we start communicating just basic principles. What is the next step? Has the implant been placed yet? When is the patient getting debanded for ortho? When are we ready to do the next thing? And I often would involve the lab technician in that conversation. So use technology to advantage. Be nice to the lab, because they are the ones that's going to save you sometimes.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's very important. That's safe. That happened many a times over the years. So yes, a good idea. You remember when I started, there wasn't even such a thing as a cell phone in those days. But that's been very helpful since it came into being. And yes, communicate with your specialist, have them and send them photos and anything, get consent from the patient. You can send the Panorex, whatever, quickly for opinion while the patient is still in the chair. So that's the way to do it. I mean, we're all friends, we're colleagues. And once you open up that kind of open relationship with everybody, and including the lab as well, with all the technology around now to make it easy, do it. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, or just also to get them into your practice.
It's all about relationships.
if you phone them in advance, say, listen, in 2 days' time, I have a big case coming up. I'd like you to be at the practice. You know, they also like to just come out of the lab and just feel part of the team. And I think it brings in trust with your patient as well, that if he meets the lab, say, this is the guy, or you send him for a color to the lab. Or we not just be decent sometimes, you know, if it's a big case or, that's been planned, and send them a post-op photo and say, yes, thanks, you turn out nice, patient happy. I think they don't want to just be like a lab rat, make them part of the team. I think
Yeah. All right. That was very insightful, doctors. This is the last question from me. Do you guys feel that throughout your undergrad program, were you guys fully informed about post-grad, programs such as diplomas, such as, your specializations and so on? Were you guys fully informed? If not, how were you guys informed? Because there's the nitty-gritties, like your minimum requirements, the deadlines, how much you must have gotten and so on. Were you guys informed about this? How many years a certain specialization? Do you have to write primaries? If not, do you have to do masters? Were you guys fully informed in dental school?
That's a tricky question. So I think the quick answer is no.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
me too. And
what I want to add to that.
Yeah, I think I agree with Kearney. I think in our days, definitely, I think the answer was no. You almost sometimes got the impression that was they were protecting their turf, to put it in such a way. Sorry to say that, but so you only really got to know the people and know what's out there when I joined SADA and go to meetings. And those days meetings were big. We were like 150 people in the meeting. And, the specialists were almost like holy up there. You did not approach him, but over time you actually realize, we're all the same, and that's how you learn. But no, at academic level, no, we weren't informed of what was available.
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question, because I literally came back 20 minutes before we started today from a day that I had with the post-grad students at UWC. So I spent some time with the guys that's doing their aesthetic PDD, and it's quite a small group. And we spoke a little bit about, what other postgraduate diplomas are available. And how do you actually apply for these programs? And the one thing that was so obvious to me is, if you want to know, and you will find out. So yes, this information is not readily available. But if you start speaking to people that are slightly older, that maybe have been specializing or that have done a postgraduate diploma or two, they will be able to tell you. But it does sometimes feel like a secret club. But you can make yourself a part of it.
I think it's also strange that, in the first year, everyone wants to become orthodontists. They want to specialize in orthodontics. Don't know why, but I think it's because we all had braces and you want to be something different. I didn't know about a periodontist when I started. I'm honestly, I didn't know about a maxillofacial surgeon. And then you realize there's so many different specialities. So I think it also comes with time and with age, as you get exposed to some of the clinical environments, that, hey, hang on, but there's other specialities or other areas that you at first thought that you would love, which you find more joy in, and it tickles your mind. And I think that's where the creative juices starts flowing. And like when I said, then it's freely available. And the other part of your question was, for postgrad diplomas or courses. I mean, I think COVID changed that so much for us with webinars. I mean, 5 years ago, I didn't know about Zoom almost existed. You only know about TeamViewer, or someone could log into your computer. Now it's part of our daily lives. And I mean, you can go onto your cell phone now and on Instagram, and you find so much training just out of hand. And with SADA being digitalized, they post the whole time about their congresses or little congress groups in different provinces coming up. So it's I think there's enough information. Like when I said, if you want to seek for it, you will find it, and that will put you on the right track for sure. But informed, no, for sure, not on the university level. But I think as you go along, yeah, you will definitely find your way.
All right. Thank you so much,
Can I
doctors.
ask a question though?
Yes.
Have you been, you guys, the younger dentists, been told or made aware of the postgrad diploma while still in undergrad?
I'll go first, Docs. I think for me, it was more of a thing of speaking to one of the supervisors by chance. And then they mentioned, you know, I remember Dr. Gordon and Otho. I asked her and I was like, okay, so how do you go, you know, how do you go on about it? And then she's like, no, you have to do your primaries first and this and so on. And it was only my curiosity that actually got me to get that information. Otherwise, we never really got sort of many programs. You know how in matric they come as career day and they advertise the career and they say this is the deadlines and so on. I feel I never got that information. I only started now being curious, you know, via networking through people and, you know, socializing and joining societies and so on. For me, that was my experience. Dr. Hale or Dr. Kearney maybe has a different experience.
Look, I mean, from my perspective, you always get lectures and the lecturers would present their topics. And on the first page of the lecture, they would present a list of their credentials. And I think from year one of IDE, you would see these credentials and wonder what they mean. And, you know, then self-research kind of goes into that. So then you can see, you know, the list of postgrad diplomas. Some institutions don't offer the PG dips. Some institutions do. Others offer pure research masters by coursework and thesis. So there's so many postgraduate programs out there that are open to you. And also as you grow throughout your undergraduate journey, you develop passions for certain topics, modules, and subjects. And those are the things you will obviously go in and research more on what postgraduate programs are available to you in that. So yeah, for me specifically, seeing a doctor's credentials as they were lecturing me was a starting point for that.
I also ask I'm 21 years in practice and no one ever asked me what diploma do you have or show me your diploma. I mean, you all want to have a diploma or maybe something written at the back of your name, but I've had most of the amazing trainings just attending a weekend training and by applying it in practice and learning from experience and not from academic, because academics you can read yourself. I'm not bad enough in the university, but you know, I've done an implant diploma, so you sit for a year. It's a lot of traveling, it's lots of costs, it's a lot of costs out of your practice. And if you pick the right topic or the right, I would say, workshop, you can learn so much in a weekend, you know, and really focusing on that and excel yourself further. It's all of those are keys and stepping stones, and you train from there onwards and get a mentor close by or someone that you know you relate to, or on the conference that you was. So it's not, I think, all just thinking, oh, I should have a diploma to be better. I think you can really do a lot these days with training, you know, at private institutions or at the companies. You know, they get guys in from overseas, and yeah, I've been to amazing weekends or workshops that, like I say, in a day you've been taught so much that's really helpful. So yeah.
Okay.
I think this is definitely a topic we can maybe cover in the YDC a bit more and have a webinar just covering this and informing the young dentists about their different options.
Awesome. Okay, sorry to take you out. I would allow Dr. Hale to have one question, then Kearney, and then Hale again, then Kearney, so that you can cover the time and so that they can be able to also to ask their questions as well.
All right.
Dr. Hale, you can
Perfect.
start.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to have some esteemed professionals, Dr. Smith, Dippenaar, and Erasmus. You know, you guys are widely respected in the community, and as young dentists who are new and newly qualified, we really do look up to, you know, not only your clinical skill, but your commitment to your patients and commitment to practicing ethically. One of my most important questions, or something that I was most curious about when I was thinking about what I need to ask, is if there were any specific challenges or ethical dilemmas that you've encountered in your dental career that were not addressed in your dental training, and how did you handle those situations? especially so being a young dentist who's not aware of these potential legalities or ethical problems coming into a new practice, and you know, how did you deal with those dilemmas?
Kearney, go.
Yeah, I can go.
Ethics. So when Eric, when I think of what you're saying, there's some key things that come up for me. The first thing is, if I'm a young dentist, I might not necessarily have the experience or the skills to do a certain procedure. So what happens if I'm in a position where I have a patient sitting in front of me in the chair, and I realize I'm not equipped to do this procedure? Like, for me, that was scary as a young dentist. And then what am I supposed to do from a professional point of view, from an ethical point of view? And if I'm sitting alone, if I'm in my own practice, you know, what are my choices and my options? So immediately I'm thinking, if you can position yourself with mentorship, these questions and these ethical things become easier to manage. And we can create an environment for ourselves where we can get a lot of soft guidance with ethical dilemmas. But I think that if we're alone, you know, it becomes quite tricky, and it's the only person that's going to know if you are making the wrong decision is you. The patient might not even know about it. So for me as a young dentist, when I think back of being in situations where I might not have had the skills or the expertise to do certain procedures, I had to ask myself, am I going to put myself in a position where I might create anxiety and stress for myself or potentially harm a patient? Or am I going to refer this patient to a colleague or more senior dentist to do the procedure? So those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves as young dentists. And I would advise to rather tread carefully, rather be on the side of caution, so that you don't create unnecessary stress for yourself.
Sure.
I think there's nothing bad with accepting that you can't do it. You don't have to be a good, because we all been in a position where you had to refer, and that's where probably is from day one is, you know who orthodontist or maxillofacial surgeon or who are you going to work with. And again, I think all their doors are open because they know it's a working relationship. Go and knock on their door before you start. Say, hey, I'm Dr. So-and-so, that they don't get a call from you and don't know who you are, and now you're in a position. Just say, I'm there, and is it right if I refer patients for you? And you'll see that also just extend a hand of opening. And if you are in trouble, they will help you. And you don't have to be a hero. You don't have to treat. And it is okay to say no to a patient, to say, listen, but I think there's someone better equipped. There's nothing bad with it. And to realize and say, I think that, and the ethical of, I think that's what would you do for your daughter or your mother? Yeah, it's probably different if it's your mother-in-law, but just joking. But yeah, it's, you know, to say, is this the best treatment for my daughter? Would I have done it if it was my daughter? Or listen, no, I think there's someone better. I'm not up for that. You don't have to put yourself in that stress and in that position.
I think the question about honesty and patients appreciate that. I think once you realize that and you practice in that manner, you're going to see your practice will grow. If you just need to be open from the word go with your patients. I mean, I also started with nothing in that practice, and it built up. And I think the main thing was I was always honest with my patients. I was never shy or embarrassed or anything to stop a procedure and say, listen, there's Dr. Kearney or there's Heinrich. They can do this better than me. I'm going to refer you there. And the patient actually appreciate that. And then they will start coming back to you and refer patients back to you because they know you're an honest dentist. So that's how you win those situations. Because I always tell the younger dentists, and I had many coming through to my practice over the years, is be honest in that regard, and don't be embarrassed if you can't do. We all started there. You have to start somewhere, but don't try and do something that you're not up to. And you need to, I always tell them, you need to be scared of that dentist these days with all the technologies and advancements. That one that tells you he can do everything. You need to be scared of that dentist, because it's almost like specialities becoming specialities within specialities, if you understand what I'm saying. There's very few dentists out there who can really do everything. So that's why we're grateful for people like Heinrich and Kearney. I was never the best clinician, but I had other people that were better at doing things for me. And that should the way that you should approach it. Do it that way. That honesty will win you points with your patients.
I think, and also...
Sure. Sorry, just to add on your question.
If you make a mistake, it's all right to make a mistake. Sorry, I just think you must also realize that you learn from your mistakes. And that's what Ian says, just be honest. You know, if there's a mistake, say, listen, the root fracture, that's it. But I think it's close to nerve. I can't do it. I'm going to refer you. There's nothing wrong with it. Or listen, a file is fractured now. It happened to all of us. It's not the end of the world. It's just, I think honesty is probably key, that you can live with your own conscience. That's it. If you've done your best, that's the best that you've done, and that's the outcome. I think that's more than enough justification.
No, I think I speak on behalf of most young dentists where they are conflicted between wanting to do the procedure so that they can learn how to do it and acquire that skill, because practice makes perfect, and also treading with caution and, how would I say, ethically falling into the milieu of your own practice or whomever decided to employ you post community service. I mean, you want to also use what they have, and sometimes what they have or suggest is not the best thing that you were trained to use, and it's also a complicated situation ethically for you personally.
Yes, I was just saying, just to add on your question, I think the challenge would be when you are in the rural areas and there isn't specialists close by, and the patient has to travel like 100 kilometers to get there. Then it becomes how do you handle such? Let's say this is the young dentist. They're there in the secluded areas, and then they are faced with this challenge. And then the next specialist is like 400 kilometers away, or 100 kilometers for that matter.
Yeah, you're right.
Dr. Kearney, do you want to?
Can we go to the next question? Okay. Can you share any tips on effectively managing time in your dental practice and maintaining a good work-life balance?
Okay. Yeah, effectively managing your book is important, because that can make you stress. And I mean, over the years, if you attend, and I've attended hundreds of hours of dental protection lectures on how to do things and not do things, and watch out for the traps that you're going to fall in. And it's simple things, actually, if you think about it. It's like, don't do the most difficult molar root canal treatment on a Monday morning or on the Friday afternoon as the last patient. It's a tough week, you're tired, so forth. Don't book a patient there. So manage your book. And I know this is not applicable to Heinrich, but I'm a clinician on the normal scale. Not endodontics is not my favorite procedure, Heinrich. But for me to book 3 molar root canals in one afternoon is simply not on. I'm simply not good enough. I'm too slow, and all those things. So I get tired. It breaks me down mentally if I have to do molars in a row. So run your book, do 1. Big procedures that you like, do 4 of them. So manage your book the whole time. I normally, when I arrive at the practice on a Monday morning, I quickly take the book, look through it, see it, and then start moving around. So it makes sense for me to have almost a relaxing day in that sense. So don't kill yourself with difficult procedures that are tough for you. And make time for you. Okay, maybe I'm lucky, I don't know, but I've been playing golf every Thursday afternoon for the last 25 years, and nothing interferes with that. So you have to make time for yourself. If it's only that one thing, one time, do it. It means such a lot for yourself mentally, that there's a break. You're looking forward to it. That's the thing you should do.
I agree.
Yeah, and you are literally hitting the nail on the head there. I couldn't agree with you more. It's so important for us to make time for ourselves. I had this exact conversation over the weekend at the Bridge program with the last take that we had this year. And we spent a whole day with these guys talking about business. So obviously we're going to talk about the stresses that come up in a dental practice, both from a business and a clinical point of view. And Robin, what you're speaking about is managing stresses like staff. And, so there's so much going on. And the only way we can do this is if we take care of ourselves as well. So as dental professionals, in essence, I honestly think we are very caring and giving people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone into this as a profession. So sometimes we get so caught up by giving of ourselves to our patients because we actually care and we really want to help these people. It's difficult to say no. Plus, then you get business stress that comes with that. So you also don't want to say no because you don't want to lose a patient, or you'd rather work late, or you say yes to that wisdom tooth extraction that you shouldn't do because you're kind of thinking of the potential stuff you have to pay at the end of the day. So sometimes we put ourselves in those positions because we're in a building and survival phase of our life as a young dentist. But what's so critical is that if we don't make those decisions like the golf on a Thursday afternoon early in our careers, we will never get to make those decisions. So I couldn't agree with you more. It's so important to spend time on yourself, fill up your cup first so that you can give to your patients. If you are empty, a Friday afternoon dentist is tired. A 4-year-old in a Friday afternoon dentist chair at 4 o'clock is not going to get a patient and beautiful experience. But a rested dentist is going to give that child a much better first experience.
A Saturday dentist is even more tired.
Very true.
I used to play every second week golf. Now I catch fish once I'm at the sea. So Friday is water day, whatever comes afternoon. But I think what I did when I was still in Welkom with golf, it's funny how it mentally made a difference. Because the week that I'm playing golf, Monday I wake up and say, oh, it's a short week because Wednesday I'm playing golf. So you work hard on Monday and say, okay, so Tuesday you stand up and you say, that's okay, I'll work hard today because tomorrow it's golf day. So Wednesday you stand up and you say, it's a half day today, so I'm playing golf this afternoon. Wednesday you play golf. When you wake up on Thursday, you realize, oh, tomorrow is Friday. So mentally I'm also in a better position because now I realize it's going to be Friday. So it's funny how it makes the whole week sort of mentally better because of a small change like that. So you have to give that me time to say, on a Friday or at a Wednesday, from 2 to 3, I'm off. I can honestly tell you it's not going to make you richer or poorer, but it's going to enrich your life so much more. Like Kearney said, that you're rested, that you feel better, that you catch up. You need to get out of those 4 walls. Otherwise, you can't regain perspective of what you do. So it is so important, or you gym before work and all the fitness, but just that little bit of me time. You don't have to ask an excuse. You sometimes sit and you feel, I know this emergency list, and then I go for a coffee at the restaurant because I just decided Wednesday between 1 and 2, that's my only day where I'm going to take a lunch. And you almost feel bad for sitting there, but you're also a person, you can also enjoy it. I always say my hair grow in work time, so I have to cut it in work time. Why do I need to do it on a weekend? So make time for those things. They say, I was this weekend at an implant course, and they asked, how many of you were for a dental checkup in the last 2 years? And there was almost, very little went for a dental checkup, went for a checkup for your eyes, the basic stuff. We just so want to please patients, but hang on, you have still a long career ahead of yourself. So that me time is so important. It's not just for a weekend. You have to, it's mentally draining, all this stuff, day in and day out. So you have to book that little buffers. And just to get back to maybe time management, I've never had a Monday morning, not someone phoning. So there is maybe going to be emergency. So keep a 1 hour open on a Monday so that there is time to fit that patient in, that it doesn't have to be squeezed in. And guess what? If there is no one phoning, well, then you have a nice coffee break and you enjoy the coffee, because tomorrow will be another working day. So I think small little things like that makes a difference in the long run. Yeah.
Sure. Before we continue with our panelist questions, we have questions from our attendees here. They're asking, as practitioners who've been in private practice for a long time, do you think it would be advisable for young dentists starting out in private practice to do accounting short courses?
Ian?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. You can do, there's many available, and there are courses, many different courses in that regard. And I think SADA can play a role in guiding the youngsters in identifying a few for them or so forth. I actually did a UNISA course in my second year in practice, which helped me a lot, because like Anu said, but I mean, still after all those years in experience, I still struggle to read my own financial statements. I always just go to the last page and see whether there was a profit or not. But yes, now I think it's very important to do accounting course, but also to understand how you work, how you bill, and then coming back to what you discussed last night about the RVUs, coming back to that makes a difference. Identify the procedures. That plays a role in the accounting thing. Am I making a profit? Or I'm just practicing in vain and I'm not going anywhere. So the answer is yes. There are so many things that you can do.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I also agree with you. I decided to do an MBA because it felt like it's something that it's needed, and because we're running businesses as much as we are in private practice and doing teeth, but it is a business on its own as well. Okay, so I'll encourage all the dentists attending, please send your questions so that you can read them out as well, keep it included as well. So we'll go back to Dr. Eric for your question. You can go ahead, Doctor.
My next question is, again, more on the legal aspect. Are there any specific legal or regulatory aspects of dentistry that you've encountered in your career that were not so effectively or expressively covered in your dental education? Things that you were unaware of going into private practice in terms of legalities, things like that?
I think there's a list, Casey, you can correct me, of about 50 statutory acts that we have to comply to. So the answer is a definite yes. You really need to look at it. And I think SADA is doing a lot and putting a lot in the SADA right and so forth. So take your time and read it. There are a lot of important legal stuff that are put in. And it goes to our Professionals Council Act, the Health Act, National Credit Act. There's so many things that are applicable to your daily practice that you will actually get scared if you start knowing all, but get aware of it so you don't fall in some kind of trap. And labor law is a very important one. So many of our colleagues fall in that trap on a weekly basis and end up in the CCMA. So make sure you know about those things, get the right people. Like
I'll also include the medical aid as well. I think that's one of the things.
Medical Schemes Act, absolutely. Yeah, you need to know exactly. I think we spoke about last night about balance billing and split billing, all those things. What is the legal aspects about that? So I think that is a subject almost on its own. One webinar. Robin, we can have one. We need one evening only for that. But yes, Eric, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Can I just add in here? I'm sitting here and listening to all these things, and definitely we are going to respond to it. I'm actually grateful that we have been able to start this mentorship program. So to your point, it's not just only financial. There's a whole lot of things. If you are going into private practice in particular, you need, we agreed, the financial, so you can know whether you're making a profit or not. Dr. Dipenar emphasized, this is a business. It's not an NGO, it's not an NPO, it's not a welfare organization. It's a business organization or a company that should make money. So to make money, you need to understand your finances. So the financial portion, you need to understand the legalities around what you are doing as a practice. You need to understand what is required, what is allowable in terms of HR, of course, the operations, and you already have your clinical training, which you guys are very good at. And finally, the marketing. I mean, a simple thing as what is it that you can do with the pictures or with the information that you have? How do you secure it? What do you say and what can you say on social media or even on your website? How do you actually create a website? What kind of things must go into your website? Does the address of your surgery makes any a difference? And it does. So normally in marketing, we always say location, location, location. Just by making sure you have chosen the best location, you can get a maximum exposure, and many people can know about you. Let me give a good example, and I know maybe we might not know all, and just because I've been there and I've seen the development. Dr. Kearney's practice, it's at a corner on a very busy road coming from the highway, and he's obviously partnered with some people that he's allowed them to have a digital board, billboard. So just for the position alone, people can see Dr. Kearney. And when one day they are in an emergency situation or they are thinking of a doctor, they will always say, oh, I don't have, and I don't know anyone, but there's a doctor. I think it's John Foster, I can't remember that road, but there's a doctor there. I remember passing and I've seen this. That is critical. When you then, for instance, I know, and we're going to deal with this at some stage, some of the practices, they don't even have a website. But if you don't have a website, how is someone that is wanting to come to you for the first time, how are they going to choose? They can only choose because at least they've had a word of mouth from someone that says, Dr. Let's say Dr. Njotini is quite good. But if they don't have that, what else can they do? How else can they know about you? Your website becomes a spokesperson for you 24/7, 365 days a year. So that's critical. And those are some of the things that you must bring in. What I do want to say, and Dr. Erasmus kind of alluded to it, is that as a member of SADA, we have done quite a lot of things in all the areas that I've just mentioned. Maybe the one that is so lacking is the financial side. But when it comes, and maybe the operational side, because your model will be unique. But when it comes to things like legal documents and legal forms, HR contracts, the kind of contracts that you should be looking at and how you contract out to locums, contract out to associates, it's available for free for members on the site. All you need to go is go to the SADA website and you can download and you can take those forms and do whatever you want with them. Obviously, if you want to get them to your lawyer, you can also do, but if you don't have a lawyer, they are already there. You can just whitewash it, take it, put your logo, and you can go on. So we've got huge resources available on the website. Of course, there's also the clinical resources that's available, but mainly in terms of your operation, this information is available. I always, and in conclusion, always get shocked when I visit practices and I see they've got maybe 7 employees in the practice, and I ask a simple question to the member: do these people have a contract? And did you give them the right contract? Is the contract updated? Those type of things. And in some instances, they tell me they don't even have a contract. And I go like, that is a big risk you've got to your organization. Because if you were to go to the CCMA, if something happens, you're gonna be in trouble. So guys, those that are listening, particularly young ones, please use the SADA resources to make sure that whatever you are doing, it is more clean. You will also get clinical forms there. Some of you don't even know how or what should be available on a clinical form such as informed consent. We've got it available for you. That form is approved by DP and we know it is legally sound. You can just take it out, download it and use it. So please visit the website and look at some of these available documents. Lastly, Chair, Dr. Buleni, is that I am taking notes in terms of what the questions that are being asked. This will assist us with the YDC to structure, particularly for next, to structure a more elaborate, more detailed, more targeted mentorship series. And I'm very grateful for this. And lastly, I know that I didn't talk to you, Dr. Buleni, but I want to announce to the YDC that I've decided with the board's blessing that Dr. Buleni is going to be my ambassador, if I can use that word for now, to the YDC. So you're going to be seeing her face more regularly. She will be giving you some advice. We're going to work together with her to develop all the things that I want to do for the YDC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. And I'm seeing more questions coming in from the attendees. Keep them coming. I'm just going to read one before we continue to Dr. Kearney. The question is, how would you explain goodwill in a practice? And is it still something to be considered currently when doing one's books or when someone is trying to buy another dentist practice?
Can I answer this?
You can go ahead.
You can go on.
So goodwill, so this speaks to your assets, really. When we talk of goodwill, goodwill is an asset. It's not something that you see money for until such time that you sell your practice. Now, what is goodwill in terms of a practice? It can, you just have to look at, number one, the kind of property that you have, although the property is separate, but this is important. Where your practice, as I indicated, the location versus a bad location. So someone that has got a good location, their goodwill goes up. Someone who's got a very good reputation, their goodwill goes up. Someone that has good reviews on Google, for instance, or on their website, that improves your goodwill. But for dentists, really, it comes more important if you are deciding to sell. Because when you sell, you're not only selling your building, you're not only selling your equipment, you need to think of all of things that I've indicated that will allow you to amass a lot of fees that will keep on coming into your practice. Of course, even the length or the period for that practice. So if you've been practicing for 45 years in the same sport, that is goodwill, or it will form part of goodwill. So it is important to that question. It is important, but really on a day-to-day basis, it's not important. But at the time of due diligence, when you are planning to sell your surgery, it becomes critically important. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair. I also think structure. Does the practice have structure? If it's a one-man practice or so forth, it's probably way more easier. If you look at a practice where you've got 3, 4, 5 surgeries, and there's a structure, meaning there's a way that patients are treated coming through the practice, how its billing is done, the whole management of that. That's goodwill. It really takes years and experience to put a structure in place for a practice like that. Not something that comes overnight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Kearney, can continue with your question. Oh, sorry.
Can I add to that? Sorry.
Yes, please.
So I agree with what you guys have said with how we can define goodwill. But I think it's important to also answer the second part of the question that this person asked, where they're asking, is this still relevant when we're buying someone's practice? And how measurable is it? Because a lot of young dentists have asked my advice in just helping them look at, potential practices that they might want to buy. And it's important for you to know as a young dentist that goodwill is not just a thumbsuck number. There's an actual calculation. So it's done by an accountant or it's done by a business consultant. So a practice valuation is not thumbsuck. No one can just kind of guess what the value of your practice is that you're trying to buy. So my advice to you, if you're in a position that you are potentially buying a practice and it seems like there's a goodwill portion in this asking price, you should ask for an independent valuation to be done on this practice, because they will be able to exactly show you and tell you where this goodwill allocation comes from. Is it from the patient base? Is it from the area? Is it from the structures like Ian said? Where does the goodwill come from? And then another thing that's so important is if you are buying a practice, no bank will finance goodwill. Goodwill is not something that you can borrow money to buy. You can only get money from the bank to buy equipment. So goodwill is very often something that's negotiated when you are buying a practice, because sometimes we just actually can't afford it, even though the value is there.
Doctor, sorry, can I ask a question on that? I apologize, Dr. Kearney. If you were able to present audited financial statements of a existing practice for the last 8 years to a bank to show them this practice has been making a consistent income of so and so, per annum, would they then consider loaning that to you in the light of knowing that medical professionals, their practices thrive on the person working there? Usually you see practices for sale for not a very expensive amount in a good area, but and then they say it comes with so many thousands of files. You get there and then the patients call in and they ask for their doctor's no longer there, the file's still there, but it means nothing in terms of value if their doctor is not there. So how do you measure that? And I think maybe that's a topic for another discussion, but how do you measure that? And how do you know you're making the right decision?
Well,
you don't, and the bank won't give you money for those financials, Eric. Unfortunately.
The problem is 20 years ago, there was specific divisions within a bank. There was a MLS, there was an Imperial. So they had a specific medical division. So when we were in our final years, they came and knock on you and you all get handed a checkbook and you feel like this big. And they say, well, you want to buy a practice, what do you do? It was so easy. Now, after 20 years, it is the most daunting thing to buy. I think if it hadn't been for companies like Mediquip, who has a different approach to buying stuff, it is even, you can ask Cornell what it is, damn difficult to finance something. The questions they ask, even with 20 years of financials, they still want to know this. I've finished one of my equipment now and I wanted to buy another thing. I had to go through the same procedure. There's not that personal that you have an identity that is, okay, it's fine, you've been a good payer for 20 years. It doesn't exist anymore, which is sad. So that's the one part. And the bank can only buy what is quantifiable. So if it's a building, if it's equipment, yes. No matter what the goodwill is, yes, there's goodwill in. And even if you give them financials to say, okay, there's a track record, they know that the guy who's running it is not going to be there anymore. So can you produce the same goods? Is there any work experience? So it becomes difficult for them, and they evaluate, eliminate the risk by just physical things that they can touch almost with let you buy, or and then you had to make a business plan. I don't know even how relevant, even if you put down a business plan, but that's something an accountant can help you with to maybe structure it when you go and see a bank. But I must be honest, I think it is quite difficult these days.
Yeah,
I think it's correct. I think it was much easier 30, 40 years ago. They were much easier to lend you the kind of money to open a practice. I think there was more kind of stability in a way because it worked differently with schemes as well. There was no limits. You could do any dentistry. There was no authorization, nothing like that. was more of a sure thing than today. So it got more difficult. That's absolutely true. But I think the big thing is you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision early in your life if you want to take that step. And you have to believe in yourself. I think you must always remember that you are the expert. You have become a dentist now. You've got the knowledge. Take that step and do it. Why else did you study? Just to work like a slave for a company or someone for the rest of your life? Probably not. I think dentists are overall we are personalities. We like to do good. We like to be better. So go out and do it.
If when I was at a decision making, so I'll finish my community service and I'll locum for 3 months for the guy. He was actually my dentist at school. He went overseas, so I was locuming for 3 months. Then he came back. He went for 6 months again. I was locuming, and at that stage, when he came back after 6 months, said, "Well, he's going to immigrate." So now you sit with that. What do? Do you buy the practice? And I got an opportunity to go and work at the mine scheme at that stage. If you're young and you get a car allowance and you see all this, added benefits, it's quite a nice, ice cream in front of the nose. But and you soon realize, and although I don't read a lot, I was busy reading a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there was one sentence in that book at the end that made my decision. And the guy said, there's always two paths in life that you can take. There's either the difficult road or there's the easy road. But as life goes on, the difficult road has the tendency to get easier the further you walk it. And the easy road has a tendency to get more difficult the further you walk it. And that was just like a light bulb that made me realize, yes, you can now climb in, work for a scheme, be comfortable, but after 5 years, you're still at that same ceiling and there's no proven. Or realize that at that stage, I was driving a nice Nissan Uno. I have actually nothing to lose. So if the bank were as stupid to lend me the money, well, I'll take that chance because I have nothing that they can take from me. And that's sort of the attitude you must say. I'm young, I don't have anything to lose. Take as much money that they want to lend you and buy it because you know what's at risk and you don't want to lose that. So go for that, sometimes that big jump and get someone to hold your hand, but it's in the long run worthwhile. It's not always immediately worthwhile because it comes with stress, but in the long run, it becomes easier, I think, as you go on.
Absolutely. And I've realized that banks would not give you a commercial loan, but they'll give you a personal loan of the same amount that you're requesting to open up a business. So if you hit the wall with the commercial loan, try a personal loan if it works. Okay, let's move on to Dr. Kenny's question.
Yeah, all the credit cards that OUTsurance and Woolworths are giving away, just take all of them and then,
and combine them into one.
Combine them and somewhere, in the middle you'll find.
Absolutely. Dr. Kearney?
Okay. Thanks. Moving away from all the finances, can you provide guidance on managing difficult or anxious patients in your practice? And what strategies have you found that work for you within your practice to manage these patients?
Heinrich, you've got the most difficult patient.
It's very simple. You just put rubber dam on and then there's nothing else to discuss. No, I think it comes down to honesty, explaining things have changed. Stem tone and being confident. These days things have changed with the way you can anesthetize and how you can do it. And, sit down and speak to the patient beforehand, explaining the procedure. I think that helps a lot if they know, although they Google and come with all these videos and all this uninformed decisions. I had a lady the other day, and everything I wanted to do, but do you have a laser? Because, she just had this one tone and that's what she keeps on asking. So, yes, it's very seldom that you can't get a patient to sit down, but you get, unfortunately, which is difficult, if you sit down with a 5-year-old and you numb him and he doesn't say a word, and then the patient after it is a 40-year-old lady who sits and cries in your chair even before you've taken a mirror. It's difficult to control yourself because sometimes then it's imaginable. So sometimes you just have to sit back, relax, and relax yourself, because if the patient is stressed and you stress, I think it adds more stress. Also the environment, and just sit face to face or put them next to the chair, not in the dental chair, so that they don't feel that anxiety. And I think it starts off in your reception area, friendly staff, the assistant, the receptionist, by greeting and are you all right, or don't worry, you're in good hands, just confirming that, and then yourself sitting down and explaining to the patient. And even though I do most of the stuff with endodontics, I like to speak. The patient has a rubber dome, but while I work, I will tell him, listen, we find that. Remember, I told you there might be an extra canal. I'm finding it. Listen, I'm at length. He knows what I'm doing. So that brings it and takes the mind off of what you are actually doing. All the rest of putting a screen on and telling, I think all that helps, but it's just sometimes you have to sit down with the patient and if you know he's anxious, rather stop. Say, let's rebook the appointment. This is what's going to happen now. If there's any questions, and make a longer appointment so that you can properly numb him. Because we'll say, doctor, but they never numb me. And you do get that patients where you struggle, for instance, to numb him. So numbing, wait 10 minutes. If you're in a half an hour appointment and you're already 10 minutes into that, it becomes difficult and it adds stress. And if it is necessary, then prescribe something. I don't work a lot on conscious sedation, but there's nothing harming to say, okay, I realize you have a problem. Let me take you through it. Or let's just do a consultation today, and there's 6 restorations that need to be done. Say next time we do this one, this is the smallest one. Let's just do the one. We guide you through it, or just start with the cleaning. Just start with something small that they also get trust in you and the way that you work, confining them the whole time. And I think that builds trust if they can do it once and say, what, next time is exactly the same. It's just going to be a little bit longer, etc. And or prescribe a Dormicum or something to calm them a half an hour before the time and say, this, I realize it's difficult for you. This is what I can do. And I think it's that's most of the time successful. There are the odd ones that, it's just impossible. But that's how I approach it.
Absolutely. If all fails, reschedule the
Sorry,
appointment.
the silly thing is to always try not to speak on, and if this guy's an engineer or this lady has an art shop, start speaking to her about art. Don't speak about the dentistry straight away. It's always good to ask questions about what they're doing. So it takes the mind off what they bring them out, bring the emotions, and say, as an intro, that's also something I've learned that helps a lot.
I think with what Dr. Dippenaar is saying, it's actually like resonating with me a lot, because I'm dealing with the epicenter of anxiety in ComServe. It's coming for an extraction. So I find with my patients, the one day I was injecting a patient that was going to extract a 2.6 and another patient that was going to extract a 3.6. So you find outside, after I've injected them, they're having a conversation. So the second patient is like, well, so the one I'm extracting the upper, I don't feel like I'm numb by my, lower lip like the other patient. So it's so important to know even the science behind of what you're doing, because now you have to explain how the nerves innervate and how yours is different to another patient, knowing how to explain the anatomy and all sorts, understanding also psychologically, you have to prepare this person. So I always remind them when, they're highly anxious that, listen, remember, why are you here? You're here to eliminate a problem. This is a painful tooth. So what would you rather do? Stay with the painful tooth or bear 30 minutes of a very scary situation and then being done with it? So definitely with what Dr. Dippenaar is saying, I resonate highly with it.
Yes.
And I also tell the patient that, you're part of the team. So I want to do my best, but I can only do my best if you help me to do your best. So make them aware of, they also have a part to play in this. I can do his best, but I will say, if you keep on moving, it's like me trying to write my name on a piece of paper and you keep on pulling the paper around, it's not going to work. So you have to help me, and then I will do my best, and, just constantly make the, are you all right? Those type of things, that does help.
Awesome. I have a question from the attendees here. It says, what do you think the impact of NHI will be on us? It is scary to try and plan for the future of your practice, but NHI is like a dark cloud.
Casey, you want to be talking to the politician, or shall I'll give my opinion. I don't think it's going to come that quickly. It's probably coming. I mean, this is I can't even remember how many years ago they came to us for the first time with this whole idea. and I was in that first committee where they discussed it with us, and it was very disorganized. They didn't even have any idea what they're going to offer in a package for NHI and who they're going to offer to. So the certificate of need was not even then discussed at that stage, and that came later. I think they're going to have a lot of problems from the private sector and opposition. I don't think it's going to be that easy for them to just implement it. They simply don't have the facilities. So I think SARA's got a very big role to play in this. We should not sit aside and just ignore it, take part. But there could be opportunities. I wouldn't say there's no opportunities, depending on how they run it. But, you know, the suggestion to go after the reserves of the medical schemes to kickstart the whole thing, it's just ridiculous, not making sense. It will never happen. I can't see that's going to happen. It's going to lead to a lot of court cases and so forth. So yes, but I think Casey has been more involved in discussions in this regard, so he can maybe comment better than me.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to start maybe back on the issue of difficult patients, which I think Dr. Dippenaar spoke very detailed around it. But I also want you to think of, when you're dealing with the patient, also think of yourself. And we always say to doctors, you must avoid what we call HALT. Okay? So HALT is an H-A-L-T. Don't attend to patients when you are hungry yourself. Don't attend to patients when you are angry yourself. Don't attend to patients when you are running very late. Don't attend to patients when you are tired. Or be aware of that, because that influences the way you see the patient and the way you interact with the patient. Also, in terms of communication and understanding, always be empathetic when you deal with the patient. Don't keep on interjecting. Listen to them, and with empathy, say, this is how I propose to deal with this issue. But another very important thing, you guys would know better since you are dentists, the issue of BDD, the body dysmorphic disorder. This is a serious thing, because I'm understanding that up to 28% of dental patients, they suffer from this. So this is something that you need to learn to identify and learn the tools to deal with it. I'm going to park that and talk about NHI. NHI, let me put it this way. I have been involved, I've even gone to Parliament where I have made a presentation on to the Parliamentary Committee on Health, and I am also have attended the first Presidential Health Summit, as well as the second one that happened about 2 months ago. This is what I can tell you. The government is determined to have NHI happening. It's determined. And I think the push from the discussion on the ground politically is that they wish to have this ready to be implemented either before the next elections or during the next election. Does it have problems? And I'm just cutting short here. Does it have problems? Yes. Are they aware that there are problems, like Dr. Erasmus has indicated? Yes. But on the ground, they've been told, push this animal. Push it, whether it crawls, whether it has no limbs, or it has no arms, or it can't see, or it's got one eye, push it. We will fix everything else during implementation. That's what is the word in the ground. So how will this affect you? Yes, we just have to learn on what has happened in Germany. We just have to learn on what is happening with the NHS in the UK. So it will only depend on what model of remuneration they are going to choose. And depending on that, if I were to go by what Dr. Aaron Njotini told me when I attended the competition commissioner, I specifically asked him, he says, as a minister, my job is to make sure that as many patients as possible are treated paying the lowest possible rate. Now, if that is the case, this is going to change the way we do things, or dental surgeries, medical surgeries do things, because now you are going to look at a very low rate, and you're going to look at how much time do I need to spend on this patient that is under NHI. Now, if I were to use the NHS understanding, What has happened in the UK is doctors, dentists, medical doctors, everyone that's under NHS are starting to spend little or less and less time with the patient. And if you spend less and less time with the patients, just to push the numbers, what is going to happen is the quality may be affected. So that's one of the negative impact that may be caused by whatever remuneration model the NHI pushes. Secondly, if they choose to do what is called an allocation ratio. So in other words, they say in Gauteng, we've got 4 million patients or potential patients, and we've got 20 doctors. They divide that number by the number of doctors, and they then give you a registry to say, these are your patients. Now, if these are your patients and all of them now under NHI, remember under NHI, anyone, whether you work or you don't work, you will be able to access services. Now, if all of these patients were to come to your surgery and you need to deal with them, you again are going to be forced to spend less and less time on them. So, but there's so many ifs, if I can use that, in terms of the implementation. And we can't for certain say these are the exact impact or negative impact. Like Dr. Erasmus has indicated, if certain implementation are done very well, there may be opportunities in that regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. That was a mouthful. We have about 7 minutes till we close. I guess the best thing to do now is just to say some final closing remarks because our session ends at 8:30. We'll start with Dr. Kunesmith. What are your closing remarks? Still muted, Doctor.
I'm on mute. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think the questions that were asked tonight were very relevant, and I think they were really, really good questions. Well done to all three of you for like finding these questions and opening up the conversation. I think that the YDC is doing a great job with mentorship. And I definitely think there's so much more we can speak about. You know, if I listen to some of the questions that we was and some of the answers as well, you know, there's so much that we just have no exposure to in the business part of dentistry specifically. Just touching on those legal documents that Eric spoke about, you know, also thinking of the business principles that we're not exposed to at university, dealing with staff, HR staff. There's so much more we can do. But I think maybe just as a closing remark, some advice that I can give the young dentist starting out in private practice is to make use of free information. We spoke about doing a legal course or an accounting course. I have had so much free information on podcasts and books that I've read. So please don't forget about the free information that's out there. There are incredible dental podcasts out there that you can listen to on your way to work, guys. And some of these podcasts are specifically around the business principles of dentistry, not just clinical. There's clinical stuff as well. So go and spend time on the free stuff first before you spend money on stuff that is going to maybe take some time to implement.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much, Dr. Erasmus.
Yes, I think one thing that you as a young dentist should understand, yes, you're starting anew, but you must also always remember in a room with a patient, a new patient, you are now the expert. He knows less than you. And you should never feel, and I found that over the years, a lot of young dentists starting my practice, that they almost feel guilty in a way for what's wrong with the patient. And I tell them it's not your fault. That patient came to you for help now because he's got a problem. So get rid of that feeling and see how you're going to help the patient to the best of your ability. And if you can't do that, then refer to the patient. Never be shy or embarrassed to do that. You do it in a very nice, professional way, and patients will appreciate it. Like I said, if you tell them, listen, I do this, I'm better with this, but there's Dr. Kearney, she's better with that. I'm going to refer you to her. They appreciate that. But you should not feel guilty at all. All of us started at the bottom, and you're going to grow in the profession. That's my advice to you.
Absolutely. By young dentist, we're not mentioning only the age, meaning also at heart. And also if you're just starting out at the practice, you feel like you're young, brand new in the practice, or you want to start a private practice, you don't know what to do, you've been a dentist for a while, or you're already in private practice, but you are stuck, you need some help. The information is for everyone. Dr. Dippener, what are your last closing words?
Yeah, thank you all for the panel, and there's room for so many discussions that Kearney and Ian said, and all that are relevant. But one thing I might add is there's so many mentors out there as well. And I think it's like playing golf. If you're playing golf with a 24 handicap 4-ball every day, you're not going to learn anything, because you're all going to be in your own bush looking for balls. And I always tried to measure myself. When I started out, I wanted to play with a number 2 handicap, because then I up my game, because I can hit the ball far, but I couldn't putt and chip, and that's what you learn on the long run. So, and that's surrounding yourself with people, because then you up your game and you ask the right questions and just learn from, Dr. Njotini said, she's shadowing someone. Most of us have been in your shoes and are always willing to help within reason, or, we get emails, and I know Kearney as well deals a lot with young dentists. You get a WhatsApp, you get something, and it's always, I always answer back and try and help best I can, or find someone that can, attend to your courses, but get a mentor in your area, or someone that's older, because unfortunately dentistry and the knowledge come with age and the stuff that are relevant. And, just ask. That's all. Don't be shy to ask and say, I don't know. Say, yes, can I come and assist you with this? Can I just come for 1 hour and look at it? I was struggling with this, whether it's the business side or a procedure, and you will find someone that you can relate to, and someone that will be willing to help you. Make friends. I think that's something dentists out there seeing more and more. And dentists aren't enemies. We are friends. Even if you're in the same town. You can't decide for a patient where he's going to. He's going to decide for himself. And if you're in a small community, the guy might end up with you. If he has an emergency, not available, patients aren't that loyal. They Google and they go to the next one. So don't feel that it's a personal thing. And that's why it's always good to know your friends. In the town that I have, for instance, on implants, there's so many systems out there. You can't have a kit and a key for everyone. So the sooner you have friends, the better. You place 1 or 2 systems, and now all of a sudden you need a Straumann kit. Phone the guy, because he has a Straumann. Yes, come, by all means. It's something you're not used every day. And feel free to come and help me. Or so many times you run out of etching, or you need bonding. So, yes, can I just borrow yours? Most of us have a spare one. So, yes, come and he will replace it by tomorrow. It's 2 days delivery. And you get, so that's very important to have that side, because that's the small stuff you don't need to stress about. I think we all realize, and that's why, like this SADA, the conference that's on, it's nice to mingle and just to share knowledge and rub shoulders with your friends, and to realize, listen, we all sit with the same struggles, the same frustrations, but also the same joys. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think my last message is what changed my life completely is I was fortunate in 2009 to visit the IDS show in Germany. It's the biggest dental show. It happens every 2 years. And once you realize, after I was 5 years in practice, you became on a platform. You don't know where you're going, and you do the same thing for 5 years. That was the best inspiration, to go to something like that and just walk around and absorb the vibe, to know that I have made the right choice. I am in the right occupation, and to be exposed to so much more. We a small country. If you go to Germany, there's 80,000 dentists. We barely 5,000 dentists here. In America, I think it's 120,000. Brazil, I think, is 200,000 dentists. They do shows on such a big scale. And if you walk in there, you realize, listen, there is something special about this job that I choose to do. It comes with, best of it, like I was saying, in golf, you get good shots from bad lies, and you get bad shots from good lies. And it's just to find that sweet spot in the middle and have a laugh and a beer and enjoy life itself, because that is important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. CEO, please, your last remarks.
You're muted.
Am I muted?
No longer.
Now you're fine.
Yeah. Okay. For me, one is that I've listened to some of the question and the discussion that has occurred today, and definitely it will help us, myself in particular, with the YDC to formalize a formal mentorship structure from next year. I have started speaking to some members that I want to be part of that discussion so we can put this together. It is something that has been in my heart for a long time. Secondly, this series is still continuing next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So please go onto our Glue Up and look at the events, and you will see the speakers there. We've got quite some nice lineup, just like we've done this week. The structure is going to be the same. Monday, you will have speakers. Tuesday, you will have speakers. And Wednesday is going to be a round table like this one, where you ask any questions that you like. Become a member of SADA. I would like to encourage, I see quite a lot of members that have joined us today for this free webinar who are not members of SADA. I would like to encourage you to become a member of SADA and become, therefore, a member of YDC. If you are still at varsity, it's for free. And if you are in ComServe, heavily discounted membership. And if you are year one after ComServe, discounted. And of course, then you go to year 2+. Please, all you need to go to understand all of this is go to www.sada.co.za. Once you are a member, you will then be exposed to other resources that I spoke about in terms of practice, clinical, coding, all those type of things are available for you as a member for free without extra cost. And then lastly, that I want to say, we speak about, and Dr. Dipenar spoke about this just now, you are not alone in this journey, and don't even try to be alone. If you want to become a good dentist to the patients, do not try to be alone. You need support. You need to speak to someone that is more qualified and more experienced than yourself. What we have created is in the new platform called Glue Up. Once you are a member and you are in that space, you literally can ask a question in a safe group. So say, for instance, in the YDC, you may say, guys, I'm struggling to deal with this. Where can I find information? And someone will share in that group for free. And we're going to be using a lot of posting on the YDC based on some of the questions that have been asked here today. So please become part of that. If, for instance, Dr. Dipenar spoke about mentorship, if you feel you need someone to mentor you, to hold you by the hand, you can reach out to the group in the formal structure of SADA practitioners and say, guys, I'm a young student, a young dentist or a recently qualified dentist, and I need assistance. Is there anyone in the area of, and you will also belong to a branch. So in actual fact, you can post this in a branch. And if you post it in a branch, someone that is close to you will become available. I'm sure they'll say, I am available to assist you. And you can have the details of that person, and you'll be on a WhatsApp, on a call basis for mentorship. So I encourage you to become a member of SADA. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am confirming that now the session is closed. We'll see you next week as we having lectures and also another discussion on Wednesday. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very